do you guys think that I suppose the 2020, 2021 class will still get that full journey experience, what with everything being virtual? I don't think
they get the pressure experience. You can ask them.
We have witnesses to the experience.
There we go, ask them.
Razeen, do you want to answer that question?
Because before I let you guys answer, I just want to, so we would sleep in the office. We would be there at the crack of dawn. We spent literally 24/7 in that classroom. And with the added pressure and all the deliverables, we were stuck together. There were 20 of us that were in each other's faces all the time. So now with everything being virtual, sure, you guys get the pressure of getting things done, but I don't know, how's the experience been for you guys otherwise?
So you guys got to sleep.
I think
we don't get to sleep.
Sleep means closing your eyes on a bunch of newspapers for like 2 minutes.
For me, it's been, I don't know, it's been fun. I don't know, obviously, like, what the experience was like for you guys and for everyone else that's come before us. But I do feel like we were at an advantage because last year's group got to be like the scapegoats for online learning in a way. So they knew like what to do and how to plan in case we had to go fully online, which we were for most of the year. But we also got like a really good boot camp in that first month where we came in like almost every day and we got to learn everything about the newsroom and what we can do when we're there. So a lot of us, like a lot of the class went in more often than not. And some of us, like me personally, didn't. I went in maybe 5 or 6 times since that boot camp. But still, I feel like with teams and with the WhatsApp groups and stuff, we're always together. So it was really easy to get a hold of everyone. And it was, that unity was there, that team building in a way was done the way it was supposed to be, I guess. So I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's good to hear, Azim. Do me?
Yeah, I enjoyed some parts. I won't lie. There were some parts they were just like, like sources not getting back to you and stuff like that. But then I think what really for me was challenging is the fact that as much as we talk, we actually don't know each other. Like I have friends who are my online friends. And then when I got to show them the first time, it was so awkward because we talk, but I don't know you like that because we are so virtual and we're so comfortable with each other online, and the experience is not the same. In terms of pressure, I guess we don't have the same like sleeping in the newsroom and stuff like that because we are not on print. And because of COVID, we're not always together, but then the anxiety is hectic. I feel like we have different, because you're dealing with your own stuff of like, you have to be your own pusher because you're online. We're not always together. So you have to actually be your own motivation. Be like, dude, you have to do this. You have to follow your source. If things are not going well, you cry alone. Like it's very isolating, but then it is what it is, So there's good parts and weird parts.
Yeah. Thanks, Dumi. Okay, I see we've been joined by Spongile. Spongile, where are you joining us from? Can I unmute you, Spongile?
Yes, hi. Hi, sorry. I'm in race. I'm in race now.
Okay, great. So it looks like you're the only person who's joined us so far. Could you turn off your background noise?
I can't hear like you properly. Excuse me.
Could you turn off your background noise, the TV or the radio?
Sorry.
That's perfect. Okay, Spongile. Sorry to put you on the spot, but you're the first person to join us. So I just wanted to find out a little bit about you before we start speaking. So you're joining us from Raise. Are you currently third year? What are you studying?
I am third year media and politics.
Media and politics. Okay, great.
Yes.
All right. So you have a room full of Wits alumni, current students, as well as staff at your disposal to answer any questions you have about the program. So I guess let's just get started with our program. and then we will share it with other people who were interested in joining and couldn't join us today. And then if Bongile has any pressing questions, all of them can be addressed. So, all right, I am Piladi Tusa, and I'm the current career entry coordinator at Wits Journalism. And I look after the full-time honors program at Wits Journ, which means I'm also the editor of Wits Vuvuzela. On the call, I have with me our current acting HOD, Dinesh Balia, who looked after the program for several years and made it what it was. We have alumni Sibusiusi Nyanda, Ropiwa Madzena, Mfuneko Toyana, who is also our newsroom mentor. And then we have current students, Dumsani Mnisi and Razin Guta. So what I really want this open day to be is just an opportunity for people to get an idea of what it's like working and studying in this particular newsroom and environment, as well as what opportunities that can lead to later in life. I think everyone here has had vast and varied experience after leaving this particular course and can speak to the kinds of things, the skills you learn here allow you to do when you leave. So just as an opening, applications are currently open, and they are open until the 30th of September. And how our application process works is we obviously look at people's marks. So 65 and over, you get a chance to come interview with us automatically based on your marks. And then anything below 65, we have a look at those marks in greater detail, as well as some of your experience, if you have any journalism experience. We do allow graduates from all sorts of programs, so you don't have to be someone who comes directly from media studies or another undergraduate course or diploma. So yeah, we like all sorts, and it really, really contributes to the kinds of engagements we're allowed to have in the newsroom, the kinds of reporting we do, so that that varied undergraduate experience is really, really valuable to us, and we do embrace it. In the course, we try and weigh up the theory and the practical 50-50. And that leads to us having a very, very intensive course, particularly on the practical side. People who do join the program produce for Wits Vuvuzela online, which has moved wholly online now. So that means you're going to be shooting videos, editing stories, producing podcasts, designing graphics for Wits Vuvuzela as part of your coursework, as well as part of the work you do for Wits Vuvuzela as a student journalist. So you will be working and studying part-time, which is why we say to people, this is a very hands-on course. It is very full-time, and you can't afford to do other things on the side, like a side hustle, a side job. Sometimes even your own social life becomes a side hustle because this is your main focus. Without any further ado from my side, I will hand over to Ropiwa first, just to give us a little insight into your time as a student journalist here in 2014, as well as where that's led you in your career.
Thank you, Piladi, and really thank you for creating this platform. I really wish there were more graduates to listen in on these experiences and the opportunities that this particular course opens up. I mean, I've always known that I've always wanted to be a journalist, and I thought to this Wits Journ course would just be another thing full of theory, just what I would do in like media studies or whatever undergrad, and I'd be done and I'd be
You're breaking up.
Little did I know it was change in terms of what I was used to. Can you hear me now? Let me just see if I'm on the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Must I try now?
Clearer.
Do you think I can? Let me just keep the video off just as a thing. Okay. But anyway, so when we entered the course, it was made very clear by Kenichi and Dinesh from the very beginning that this was going to be quite the experience, you know. And it was. I think Pilates misleading you a little bit there. It's not 50-50 theory practical. It's like 80 practical and 20% theory. There's a lot of out and about work that you have to do, learning how to create and maintain sources, creating relationships, finding a story and making it writing it or putting it together as it happens, the urgency of being in a newsroom, that's what you're taught, the pressure, but also having a thick skin. Kenichi was almost there. He was one of our editors back then. He was the kind who was very critical about a story and was very honest and would lead you in a way that the story was supposed to turn out. I think a lot of people did not have the heart to take it and took it personally. And so that created a lot of difficulty and a lot of pressure in making things work at the time. But you learn that as well, because when you enter the newsroom, it becomes a lot worse. But you also just learn to handle more than one thing at a time. And you learn to understand various situations and linking of various stories and angles together to producing the best that you can. And you also you're a digger, you investigate, you go in there and you find the best story that you can for your readers, which for us at the time, and it still is now, Wits Vuvuzela. And I'm smiling as Pilates says that Wits Vuvuzela has gone completely online now, because I remember every Friday we would get stacks of the paper and we would have to deliver it to various parts of the campus in groups of about 4 or 5 or whatever it was at the time. But that also added to the value of writing a story, the value of having a byline and delivering that story to your viewers. It was extremely important. I think that the Wits Journal, and I'm just about done. If you're considering the Wits Journal course, make strong consideration of it. It is the perfect platform. It is the perfect foundation, especially if you're planning on entering a newsroom when you're done. I've heard from many colleagues who've gone to various universities across the country who are always surprised at the exposure and the experience that we would have as graduates entering an actual newsroom. The fact that we would be familiar with an editing system, the fact that we can take photos, the fact that we can, we can write, we could do everything, and it's so easy for us to then be well integrated into a newsroom. And I think that's why many of us who've graduated from the Wits Journal course have gone on to many good things. So myself, in terms of my experience after the course, because I'd received a scholarship with CNBC, I had to go fulfill an internship for a year. And then, of course, like I said, because they saw that I'm actually able to do everything, after the year, I was given a job and I stayed there and I grew from producer to reporter, which I absolutely loved, which is what we do in the Journal course, where you run around and telling people stories constantly. And then I got the opportunity to be an anchor. And then once that happened, I got headhunted by ENCA. And yeah, I am here now doing the business news for ENCA and obviously trying to find more opportunities to grow. But I think the gist of the story here, which is probably similar with all of us who've graduated there, is that because we had such a good platform, the growth and the opportunities were a little bit easier to come by than any other journalism prospects trying to enter the market. So that's my little story about being in the journalism school. I'll always be forever grateful to Dinesh, Kenichi, Anton Harbour. There's a whole host of people that kind of contributed to where we are all today. But yeah, thanks guys.
Thank you so much, Raf. And well done on your new weekend breakfast show.
Thank you.
We hope only better and better things come for you. We know you have to run, so don't feel bad about jumping off. Okay. The newspaper run was a lot. I don't know if the new generation has, dodged a bullet there or not, but it was a lot. It was a lot. But a great bonding exercise, I will say. Sibu, you're nodding your head there. Do you have any fond memories of that particular aspect?
Absolutely. I mean, like you're saying, it wasn't something we really looked forward to because firstly, the stacks were heavy, okay? And it's quite the walk from WAM to the main campus. But it was such a bonding experience because most of the time after that, we'd go to the post-grad pub and just have a drink, relax, have a plate of chips, and just bond and speak about the week that was, the different stories and the challenges we had. So I totally understand the question that Rufua was asking earlier about the kind of experience that the current students have in terms of really getting to connect with one another, because it really was what held us together during the difficult weeks. We take turns on editing the newspaper, and that was, you know, challenging on its own. So just being together physically and knowing that you can ask someone to help you out, or just knowing that you're in it with someone, you know, we would in our different roles have little communities, and that contributed, you know, to just the experience being at the time bearable. But now I realize how much richer I am for it. And yeah, so the newspaper runs, I miss them. Well, okay, not miss them, but I think of them fondly. I think back fondly of those experiences because yeah, it's one of my favorite things. I mean, I said that in my little quote that my year doing the Journ course was possibly the highlight of my entire varsity career. So yeah, it was lovely.
Definitely. Thank you, Sibu. And without further ado, we will turn to you. So Sibu is now a communications and content specialist. And in her career, she's worked as a news anchor, as a journalist at Drum Magazine, and then, you know, made the full pivot to PR, which she will tell us about, particularly when it comes to, I think, communications and content today, how you're able to leverage some of the skills that you learned here and turn that into a whole new career in a new industry. So Sibu, over to you.
Thank you, Pelagi. You know, I really think Rofi has touched on a number of things that I couldn't agree more with, like the number of skills that you learn when you're doing the Journ course. When I was doing the year there, I had a scholarship from Media 24. So that meant that I needed to complete a year's internship at Drum the following year. And a lot of the things that we learned, I remember sort of rolling my eyes a little bit at learning graphics because I was like, I'm not even a creative person. Why do I need to learn this? And I was a little bit reluctant even where digital journalism was concerned. And when I went to Drum, I found that I did a lot more of that. And I was so much more experienced than some of my peers there, and even some of the older journalists who were there. I remember even live tweeting at the time was something we were just starting to explore. And I'd find myself going to, say, elections or an EFF march and being the one responsible as an intern for pushing out that kind of content on social media because my seniors and my peers weren't that comfortable or weren't that familiar. So some of the things that I was a little bit reluctant to learn or, you know, drag my feet a little bit about proved to be the things that would set me apart in the workplace. So I really take my hat off to Dinesh because she was really at the forefront of advocating for learning these skills. And she spoke a lot about how this is the future, this is where we're going. And a lot of us didn't see it then, but I absolutely see its value now. And I think, you know, just the writing and how critical Dinesh was and how critical the rest of the Journ team were of just being clear on what your story is. Don't be precious about what you think is the value of your story. Think really about, you know, the interest of the people you're trying to communicate with. Those are some things that have absolutely proven valuable for me in my work as a communicator. And I've had to, in many instances, you join a team and they don't have a writer. Or when I was working, for instance, at Trace TV, and they didn't have someone to write their scripts, or they didn't have someone to write their press releases. And I would quite easily be able to step into that role and do that with great ease. So you just find yourself being able to quite easily be flexible and useful in these different spaces because of the multifaceted skill set you get from the journalism program. So I think my 2 cents would be to be open to things that aren't necessarily in your traditional scope of work. That's how I found while I was at Media 24 that I was a little bit more interested in the comms work than I was the journalism work. And that's how I then started to explore that. And it's interesting because when I was doing comms for a construction firm in Lagos, I was then approached by a news station there because they knew that I had a journalism background. And I was quite easily able to then, pivot back into that. So yeah, I really think everything I've learned at Wits has been incredibly valuable. And like I said earlier, the relationships that you build there are also so important. I've spoken with Funi a couple times, and there's just so many people in different publications, different parts of the industry that you're able to reach out to and work with, collaborate with. So I really do think that this course sets you apart if you apply yourself and just remain open.
Thank you so much, Sibu. And I think that's a very important note you made on networking in particular. I think the year you have at Wits Journalism exposes you to some of the best in the biz in terms of people who come to speak to you as guest lecturers, who facilitate some sessions that we have here, and they give not only of their time, but are very willing to mentor people on the side and give out their details. And that's something that's very special to this course and unique to this course, and I think has helped everyone who's gone through it to already enter the industry knowing some very important people who can help them along the way. Funi, I'm going to turn to you now. Funeko Toyana is our current newsroom mentor. So he's someone who's been through the course a couple of years back and now is on the other side inside the newsroom. So maybe tell us a little bit about that change, Funi, of now being someone who actually teaches the course that taught him how to be a journalist.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome. I can't turn my video on because I'm on my phone, so it would be a bit awkward. But yeah, the difference, I guess, being on the other side is you appreciate a little more the sort of smaller skills that you need to pass on, I guess, to the student journalists to prepare them for the newsroom. And I guess I'd often just go back to the kind of things that I learned when I was still a student. And because I'm fundamentally a print journalist and have been a print journalist since I graduated, is you remember all the small little details that our mentors used to nag us about, things like your nut graph, things like leading with the news, all those little things which perhaps once you've heard them sort of 1,000 times from your mentor, and I see myself repeating those kind of things and saying it all the time when I'm editing or sub-editing a story. And I can sort of see the person on the other side cringing and thinking, oh my God, not again, not the nut graph again, not lead with the news again, not cut your story down to be a little shorter and just do away with the sort of extraneous details. All those kind of things that I used to cringe and used to get frustrated about when my mentors used to sort of bang on about are the things that I'm doing now. And the reason is because once you go into a newsroom, it's a very fast-paced environment and it's a very competitive environment. I think perhaps that's one of the things that the online and learning from home that might take away from it a little bit. But I think the kind of mentorship that we try to give and pass on to the students is that it's a demanding environment and it's a very competitive environment, and your editors and your peers do expect you to master the basics almost immediately to hit the ground running. So I guess from the side of being a mentor now, that's kind of the thing that I try to emphasize a lot, is that until you've gotten the small things right, you're going to struggle to get the big things right. You're going to struggle to do those kind of stories that really matter to you, because you really have to master the basics. And I think that's why this course is so great, because it really gives you an opportunity to put those theoretical elements of journalism into practice. As much as you do sort of half of the course in theory, a lot of the time is spent thinking about stories, it's spent writing stories, and it's spent editing stories, which is another one of the pretty valuable things that I got. Is once you learn how to sub-edit, when you're sub-editing your peer stories, you also sort of learn the mechanics of a story and how a story works, and sort of the best shape that a story can take. So you kind of have those two elements as in your armor. You go into a newsroom really feeling confident about those things, because your mentor has banged on about them for weeks on end. So it really does give you an advantage when you go into a professional newsroom, because once you've got the foundation, it really is up to you in terms of your curiosity and your desire to become the kind of journalist you want. So yeah, from my side, I think that's it's one of the things that I've taken, and it's stayed with me throughout.
Thank you, Funi. Speaking to that sort of competitive edge, I think in our time it was a lot different, because we were fighting for actual bylines on the front page, or at the back, or wherever you wanted to position your particular story. But I think the pandemic has brought a different kind of competitiveness from our students, because there's been a lot less happening on campus, a lot less happening in and around Braamfontein. So they've had to fight really hard for the stories that they have come up with. And I know there have been some, inter-class battles via a spreadsheet of stories that are up for grabs. So Dumi and Razin, maybe you can talk to us about whether or not you guys feel there has been that sort of competitive spirit still in the remote learning way you guys have had to learn.
There has been. Sorry, I can't turn my video on. It's saying that the host has disabled it.
Ooh, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure why. But yeah, it's there has been that competitive spirit. I think there hasn't, like you said, there hasn't been a lot to talk about. I mean, to write about rather, but it's been fun also, because there's that spreadsheet there, and we have these chats amongst us and among us, and I feel like we have chatted a lot to each other about what's going on and shared stories and stuff like that. So that's also helped bring us together. And I also want to ask you, like, do you feel the fact that there's no print newspaper anymore has prevented us from reaching everyone? Because I feel like the following we have on social media is enough to still reach the whole Wits community. So I just want like prospective students and stuff to maybe know that we're still reaching everyone.
I mean, we reach people where they are. So I think the beauty of the print edition is that it used to get dropped off at Reses, it was at the Matrix, it was everywhere. Whereas now people have to look for us to find us, if that makes sense. So it's like that Google thing, that it's great, it has everything in the world, but you have to know what you're looking for. So if I'm not looking for a particular thing or a particular story, I'm not going to find it. And I think that's the difference. Whereas people could bump into us via just seeing the paper where they are, now they'd have to look to us or see us on the timeline, or someone else must reshare it. So it's, I mean, we're still reaching people, but just differently, I imagine. Dumi, I want to ask you, in terms of finding stories, how does one, do journalism via correspondence like this?
That's what I wanted to bring up, because I don't live in Johannesburg and I'm in Pretoria. So it becomes quite challenging when something happens and you're not there. Like, there was a lot of moments where, like, they talk in our group chat that this is happening, there's a strike somewhere, and you're like, yo, I can't go, I need to get on the train, like I'll be there when the action is done. So I feel like that's been challenging, but I feel like for me, it's also given me opportunity to tell the stories that people are not talking about, because they, like, for other places. Like, for instance, learning virtually has allowed me in my features and stuff like that to actually talk to people in my community, because that's where I live, that's who I have access to. And I feel like for me, that's also been it's mind opening, because I always thought, Bram community, you can hear my list, Bram community, how is it relevant to us? But then you can actually see that as people, everything is relevant to everyone if you just find a way to talk about it. Like, our problems are South African problems, they're not Johannesburg problems. So it's allowed me to actually just talk about things outside of Johannesburg. And for me, that's been very helpful. Also, I want to add to what Nfuni said about, you really hear your mentor's voice when you write. I feel like that's one thing that you're like, yo, what are you gonna say? Like, am I really getting to the point of things? And that's why it's I don't know, I love the fact that it's already engraved in us that, dude, are you really telling the story? I hear your story, but are you telling it the way it needs to be told? And that's one thing I've learned from you, because I love telling stories, but I never really knew how to structure things. And that course has allowed me to actually be able to see things on a bigger scale, that it's not just about the story, it's about how you tell the story. And that's important.
Great. And what would you say are some of the most challenging parts of the year so far, or have been?
I won't lie, like, I feel, what Sibu Siswe said, I hope I'm saying your name right, about how you have a community. As much as we have each other, I feel like it's not the same, because we don't, on my side, I knew that like guys who live in Joburg can come to the newsroom, have that sense of, yo, we're working together, help me help. But then you really can't push that over the phone, because number one, not everybody's on their phone. Number two, it's just, I don't know, it's a bit isolating, I would say. Like, it's a bit, because you with sources alone, and also you don't get to brainstorm with your friends as you would if they were face to face. Like, yo, the source is doing this, what can I do? You don't get to do that. There's that thing of, yo, I need to make plan B by myself, I need to chase this person by myself. It's a bit isolating. I think that's one of our biggest, well, for me, one of the biggest challenges with this course is that everything just feels so far. Like, you're close, I can text you, but then it's not the same as if you were right there and I can actually show you something, be like, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think we had a similar experience with trying to edit one of your photos the other day. So we tried to do, I was trying to show her how to use Lightroom, and it was difficult with the, like, show me your screen, no, you move your mouse to the corner, no, not that corner, the other corner. But I mean, we made it work in the end. We're all learning and growing and trying to use what we have. Razine, what would you say was the reason you joined this particular program? And do you still sort of stand by your reasoning for being here?
Okay, so I've always wanted to be a journalist. I've always wanted to be known as a journalist. And to do that, you had to do this course. I mean, at Wits, at least, you can't do it at undergrad level. And I think like this course just wraps everything up and puts it into 1 year. So you get to like learn everything. You get to finally have that title. I didn't like only do it for the title, but I still stand by my reasoning of wanting to be an actual journalist, study to be a journalist. And it was actually nice to have an honors degree in the process of doing that. And I mean, if I can just come back to challenges you spoke to Dumi about, and for me, it was group work. I mean, it would have been really nice to be with everyone, especially when we were doing our podcast and recording our podcast and stuff like that. But I feel like, the circumstances are what they are. And the fact that we still get to do everything, albeit in a different virtual environment, that's what matters. And that's what's important, because one day at least we will get that opportunity to do it properly in person at some point, if that's what we want to pursue. But at least we have a little bit of experience now with it.
Definitely. And I think you guys have definitely made it work. And in the times that you do get to see each other, make use of that time really, really well. So well done on that as well, just to this year's class. I see our visitors have left us. So to answer any lingering questions for them, I would say they shouldn't worry. Well, you shouldn't worry as a person applying to this course. about the sort of hybrid model that we've had to take on during COVID. You still are going to do all of the practical elements that are required of this course. You're going to get that vital training, pick up those skills, whether it's podcasting, shooting photos, shooting videos, editing photos, editing videos, writing stories, sub-editing, learning, about the ethics of being a journalist, how to fact check. All of that is still very, very much inside this course and is foundational and fundamental to your experience here. So don't worry about being shortchanged at all. Those things are still covered in depth. And yeah, I mean, we aren't aware at the moment of what the situation is going to be going forward in terms of learning online or in person. But as more and more people get vaccinated, it is opening up the opportunity to hopefully return to face-to-face teaching. Fingers crossed, because that is our best case scenario. As we said, this is the kind of course where we work in close quarters, and that only helps the kind of output and the kind of experience you have in this course. So we would like to return to that, but it will all depend on what happens around us. And I guess people can email me if they have any lingering questions about the course that isn't clear on our website. My email has been circulated on all our application information. So yeah, people can feel free to do that. I wonder if anyone has any remarks or anything I may have overlooked that might be pressing to some of our future Team Vuvu members. No? No. Matthew, I see you have joined us. Do you have anything to say? Add? Warn?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, Matt.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, boo.
Can you? Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought Domi and Razine actually summed everything up really well. It's definitely a challenging course, certainly has been for me as well, especially during the pandemic. That's come with a whole set of challenges on its own. But journalism definitely has taught me a lot about finding my voice, especially in terms of having the confidence to write about newsworthy things. You know, you got to do it in a finite amount of time. You've got to get to the point. You've got to make sure that you're saying it the way that you're getting it across the way that your mentors feel would be the best way to say it, to the world. So it definitely has taught me that confidence, and certainly with finding stories, it's been quite challenging, but it's very rewarding when you put in the work and it does get published eventually. It definitely is something that I'm very proud of that I'm doing this year. So that's what I would add.
Thank you very much. Okay, I guess we can leave it there for now. I will circulate this so that people who are applying and do want to get a little bit of a taste of what to expect, they can watch this back and find out more. And with that, I will stop our recording. Please do send in your applications before the 30th of September. And just to repeat that our application process involves an interview, so do be ready to be interrogated a little bit by us to find out why you want to be here, what you want to do. But yeah, we are open and ready for Team Vuvu 2022.